labor organizers here. I see a lot of signs for equal pay, a lot of signs, fair wage, women workers rising.
No justice, no peace. 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 No fair wage, 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 no peace. No equal pay, no peace. No equal pay, no peace. No less violence, no peace. Violence, no more violence. No more violence. No more violence. No more violence.
I don't know if you can see, but inside the Department of Labor there are employees, many of them wearing red, watching from a balcony.
Conceived, born and raised, I work in every part of this industry, and I am here, living in the District of Columbia, where I work at the tipped minimum wage at $2.77 an hour. So, welcome to the nation's capital. We are here on International Women's Day for women, workers, rising. We are proving the power of women workers. We are in front of the Department of Labor building to say that this is our building. You should be protecting us, not exploiting us. So I particularly want to introduce our co-founder and co-director, Saru Jayaraman, here to represent Rock United. Give her a round of applause.
Hey everybody, happy International Women's Day! Women's Day! I just want to say we are here as Rock. We've got about 160 restaurant workers from all over the country, from New Orleans, from Chicago, from Detroit, Michigan, from LA, from Seattle, from all over, from Pennsylvania and Boston. We're here to stand with workers of all different sectors to say enough is enough. What we need is one fair wage. We need paid sick days and paid family leave. We need health care for everybody. We need an end to sexual harassment and discrimination. And believe you us, we know something about sexual harassment.
sexual assault. 1 out of 3 workers. And 70% of women, the workforce is women. Women deserve to be seen, to be cherished, to be valued, to be protected. Women workers are the bedrock of this country. They do the jobs that keep our lives together. Caregiving, teaching, nursing, working in retail, restaurant workers. They make our lives safe and pleasurable. And all of us, everyone in the women's movement, everyone in every movement needs to rise today and make the concerns of women workers our concerns. Because most women in this country are working women. So I want to say that all around the world, today women are rising. And 1 billion Rising has made this year solidarity against the exploitation of women. Women workers are rising in the Philippines, in Jakarta, Indonesia, in Hong Kong, in Delhi, and all workers around the world are rising for the same thing. Fair wage! Fair wage! Fair wage! Pay equity!
Okay, I'm going to switch mics now.
Equal pay for equal work! Strong, but you know what? I'm sick of women workers being resilient. I'm sick of women workers having to keep fighting back. They do the hardest work. They do the ongoing work, and still they're abused on the job. We need to stop this, and we need to rise for women workers. Thank you very much. I'm going to introduce Jean now from the National Nurses United. Please welcome her.
Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Jean Ross, and I've been a registered nurse in Minnesota for over 40 years. And I'm still standing. I'm also co-president for National Nurses United, which is the largest union of registered nurses in the country. It's an honor to be here today, alongside so many of our union sisters and brothers. On a day when women workers are rising, nurses want you to know that we stand with you as champions of workers' rights to a safe and healthy workplace, and as duty-bound advocates for the health and safety of our patients. In order to provide quality care for all Americans, nurses ourselves must be healthy and safe at work. Unfortunately, healthcare workers face extremely high rates of workplace violence, higher than any other industry, according to the U.S. Bureau of Statistics. Our nurses have even lost colleagues to violence, including our sister, Cynthia Palamata, who was beaten to death by a patient in 2010. And so, nurses have risen in recent years to demand employers protect us from workplace violence. Now, in 2016, we're proud to say, NNU Nurses in California won the strongest workplace violence protections for healthcare workers in the country, with regulations mandated by SB 1299. That defines workplace violence, and it encompasses not just actual acts of violence, but the threat of violence. It emphasizes prevention over criminalizing, and it requires employers to develop a comprehensive workplace violence prevention plan.
I thought you might
Yeah, how about that? Plan for it. We're fighting to enact the same protections at the federal level as for our sisters and brothers in other industries. No one should ever fear being injured or killed at work. Right. And you said you can't hear us?
a little louder.
Nurses will also continue to rise as workers, fighting to end right-to-work laws aimed at crushing unions, and as public health advocates beyond the walls of the hospital. As you'll see later in a video, nurses are rising for Medicare to all. We're rising to end income inequality by a Robin Hood tax on Wall Street. We're rising to end dirty oil pipelines that wreak havoc on our patients' health. We're rising for free college education and the fight for 15. We're rising to volunteer first aid care where it's needed most, including at Standing Rock and post-earthquake aid. We are rising up to resist elected officials from any party who puts private profit over our safety and well-being. All fights for greater public health and safety are our fight. And the nurses look forward to standing with all of you here today as we collectively prove that women workers united can never be defeated.
Today, I want our CEO of Walmart to sign the petition to reveal that men and women are paid equal. Equal wages, and we want them today. We want respect on our jobs. We want sexual harassment to stop. This is our country, and we want it back.
We work for the largest retailer in the world, and for us to work for a wage that does not support our families, where we have to choose between bills and food, where we have to continue to put our kids in child care facilities that are not quality child care, for us to have to go to work sick when we need to take care of ourselves at home so we can take care of our families, for us to be denied of sick time policy that covers Walmart families when they claim to be a family-oriented facility is just disrespectful. And we want it to end today. We want respect. We are the women of Walmart, and we have something to say. We don't want respect tomorrow. We want it today.
All right, everyone. So we're gonna link arms to show the Department of Labor that this building is ours. We need everybody to get together. We're gonna move around this building. We're gonna link arms and surround the building and chant together. To everybody, start grab your sister, grab your brother, grab your ally to your shoulder. If you gotta hand somebody the signs, put your signs in your backpacks. Tuck them in the top of your jackets and between your t-shirts so we can link arms and show the Department of Labor that this building is ours. You work for us. Let's do it. Link arms. Show them that who we work for. They work for us. You work for us. You work for us. You work for us. You work for us.
link arms, we're going to keep chanting, and we're going to head towards the park, and we're going to continue this demonstration there, because we're going to disrupt the entire Capitol. We're going to disrupt this entire meeting. Do it.
No, we're not. Teach us the dance. All right. Yeah. Do it twice. Yes, do it twice.
Where's Canada? You guys ready?
Yeah. Just do it. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. So to give us more room to do the dance, can you hear me? To give us more room to do the dance, we're going to spread out. We're going to go out in front of the fountain and do the dance together before we head over to the park, okay? So if we could spread out a little bit in front of the fountain into the sidewalk. Let's dance. Let's dance. Candace is going to teach us the dance up front. Okay.
Do it.
Okay, we're at the U.S. Department of Labor in Washington, D.C. This is the third protest we have covered today for TYT Politics. Eric Byler here. We were at the White House. Actually, we marched to the White House from Freedom Plaza this morning and afternoon. And then we went to the U.S. Capitol. We were on the Supreme Court side, the east side of the U.S. Capitol, where members of Congress came out and spoke to us, all women representatives, including Nancy Pelosi. And then we went to the Supreme Court, where we didn't live cast, but there was another demonstration at the Supreme Court, and then they marched to join these people at the Department of Labor. All of these places are within blocks of each other. The general theme of these protests are women's issues, but they've also, especially as we got to the Department of Labor, have been talking about women's issues in the context of family issues and basically human issues, such as living wage. And they spoke up a little bit, as you heard, about being protected from workplace sexual assault, sexual harassment, and of course equal pay for equal.
Okay, everybody, the dance is going to happen around the fountain, and if you can all back out and turn around and
Stick around if you want to see what this dance is going to be.
Oh, there's.
Gosh, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get a good view. Day without a woman. Day without a woman. Labor Department dance. I'm sure there's a more official title. Can I see if someone will talk to us? Can I ask if someone will talk to us? Okay, I'll follow you. I'm going to see if we can get an interview with one of the organizers.
What? Sure.
Okay, you can stay up there. That's cool.
Okay.
So tell us what brought you out here today.
What was that?
You can stand up straight. Stand up straight. Okay. What brought you out here?
I'm here because women's rights are absolutely necessary and important. And more than that, we need to start focusing on class consciousness. We need to look at class as women's rights and women's rights as class, and go from there.
Tell me your name.
Maya Rosenberg.
You have a Twitter?
I do. It's MAIAPNINA.
For people who aren't as concerned about women's rights, for people who aren't concerned about living wage, what argument can you make to them that paying equal pay and paying a living wage is good for society as a whole?
I mean, well, it will automatically help the economy and make it fair. It will start to lift working classes up so that we are all on an equal status in the world, in life, and we can start to enjoy our lives together as people.
So you believe that equality is a stimulus to economic growth?
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
And I think there might be people who would say, well, equality for you is going to take something away from me and my family. What would you say to that?
No, never. Equality is making sure everyone has the same rights. It's never subtracting from anyone else's.
And what are the other issues that brought you out here today? Are you in solidarity with the people who were out here earlier concerned about reproductive freedom?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Do you share the concerns of earlier protests that we were at today? Their main concern was reproductive freedom and reproductive health, not just in the United States but abroad.
Absolutely. The global gag rule protest that was happening earlier today is, I mean, that's insane that exists. It's literally killing people. Like, that's got to go. Abortion needs to be legal, and we need to be educating women and everyone else about it too.
And so this is a more of a labor-themed, I assume. This is the more labor-themed protest, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, can you connect it all?
To labor?
I mean, can you connect women's rights, labor, reproductive rights?
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, so many brilliant protests have been run and organized by women in unions, there's no reason that women's rights and labor don't go hand in hand. So.
Well, one thing that's kind of obvious, this is what Reverend Barber points out down in North Carolina, is that the opponents of women's rights and the opponents of labor rights tend to go hand in hand.
Yes, that is absolutely true. They do normally, yes.
And so Reverend Barber would say, if they have the sense to all stand together, we should have the sense to all stand together too.
Yes, we need to unite. Women workers of the world, unite.
Twitter handle, one more time.
Maya PNINA.
MAYA?
MAIA. Yep, MAIAPNINA.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll see you later. All right. You interviewed her earlier. She's in the crowd right over there, in the middle. You see her?
Yeah, that's okay. I'll get a good shot of her.
Yeah.
be. I'm bulletproof. Not really, but a little bit, you know? Yeah, I'm bulletproof. I tell people.
Hey, you want to talk to TYT?
Fine.
No, not up for it? Okay. Hey, it's Eric Bauer, the TYT Politics. We're at the Department of Labor in Washington, D.C. It's the third of three protests. The first was at the White House. It was more focused on reproductive rights at home and abroad, in particular the gag rule that prevents federal funding that goes to health programs abroad from going to organizations that include counseling about or the provision of abortion. The second protest was at the U.S. Congress building. Members of Congress spoke to a pretty large crowd. I'd say 1,000 or 2,000 people. I don't know, maybe people would be mad at me, it should be more. The theme there was, in general, women's rights, equal pay for equal work, for instance, and of course reproductive rights. And then here it's been much more labor focused, not just equal pay, but also protections from workplace sexual harassment. We'll try to get one more interview before we go off. Anybody want to talk to the Young Turks? Explain what this is about to you? Want to talk to Young Turks? No?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not what I heard you say. Well, at the very least, let's get you a view from inside the fountain. I'm gonna try to climb this. Excuse me. Okay. And now we have new information. Everybody's moving. I'm going to walk along the edge as soon as they're out of the way. Well, we have to, I think we have to try to keep up with them. Okay, remember, don't hold the mic too close.
Okay, so if I see them, okay.
All right, you guys. All right, so tell me why you're out here today and who you're with.
We're here with the RLC United, which is Restaurant Opportunities Centers United. And we're here to stand up for one fair wage for the entire country. Mm-hmm.
So what organization, what is your organization represent that you're involved with today?
Tipped workers.
Tipped workers?
Restaurant workers.
So you guys work in the restaurant business?
Yeah, I'm a bartender and server. I'm a server.
Okay, so what kind of inspired you to come out here? Like, what do you experience on the daily that has made you want to come and strike with us today?
I've been sexually harassed since I started in this industry at 16 years old. I'm 40. And it's time for that shit to stop. If women are not paid one fair wage and they have to rely on tips to feed their families, then they will be forced to be subjugated to the will of people that are paying them tips, that touch them, that sexually harass them. I mean, it's horrific. The conditions, the work conditions are horrible, and there are no protections.
Yeah, I think we're out here really focusing on the fact that people really rely on those tips. So they do, if someone is sexually harassing you or even just being very disgusting towards you, you might have to put up with it because you still want to get that tip because they can take that away from you. And so you're living on the whim of the customers. And if you had a fair wage, a fair living wage, then you could decide to put your foot down a little bit more, or have a choice on whether you're going to put up with that.
So what do you hope, what message do you want to get across to the people who you have had issues with sexual harassment with in the past? What is the message that you want them to hear loud and clear today?
Be afraid. Be very afraid. There's 6 million restaurant women workers in the U.S., and we're not going to take your bullshit anymore. We're coming after you.
Yeah. And we're fighting. We're fighting and be afraid.
So what are the next steps after today?
Go ahead.
I come from Maine. We just won minimum wage there for all workers, and we're winning minimum wage campaigns across the country in cities and states, and we're going to make it for all.
So you travel, do you live around here or do you travel from Maine?
No, I'm born and raised in Maine, and I came down because it's that important.
Okay.
And I'm from Minnesota, and we're very, very close to getting 15 passed. We're just getting over this hump of getting tipped workers city council to have tipped workers on board with them. But we're very close, and we're very excited.
That's a fascinating point that you made, that when you're not paid a living wage or even close to one as a tipped worker, and then you're reliant on tips, that means that in some ways you are even more at a disadvantage with people whose tips you rely on committing acts of harassment.
Yeah, especially if you're a single mother like myself, and it's the choice between feeding your child or not.
Can you give me an example of something that you put up with, that if your workplace had protections or if you were paid a living wage, regardless of tips, that you might not have put up with?
Oh, there's so many. It happens. It's so enmeshed in our culture. Our president said that he could grab any woman by the pussy. That happens all of the time in restaurants and workplaces, across our country. And because it's not an employee of the restaurant, if my employer does not see the offense happen, it's my word against his, and we all know how well that goes down in the U.S.
And is there a layer of the customer is always right in terms of the attitude of your employer?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. You get, behind the scenes I might be like, well, the customer isn't always right, but the customer is always right. You just have to put up with it. You have to put up with whatever they throw you so you can make that money.
Let's keep talking and catch up. Okay? Did you get their names at the beginning?
I did not.
Tell me your names as you're walking.
I'm Serena Thomas from Minnesota.
And I'm Heather McIntosh from Portland, Maine.
You guys want to give out Twitter handles or websites or anything so people can continue the conversation with you?
What's the media info for Rock? Do we want to give out Twitter handles, or what is it?
Like our web address and our URL and everything is just redflag.org. Or do you want to talk to
To put it out there. I didn't know if there was one.
Like if we have a hashtag or Twitter or something? I just found our Facebook page.
Uptown Chula. It's Uptown Chula. Uptown and then CHULA.
So it's Women Workers Rising, essentially.
That
hashtag.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Need help?
No, it's not that. It's just that I had to bring it all the way down to get it.
I think we need to get out of the street.
Okay. So I'm going to accelerate a bit. Homeland Security is here.
both of y'all. You gonna do it on camera? No, we'll walk around.
Well, we are going in the direction of the White House, but I don't have any information. There's the Capitol building. There's the Capitol.
I mean, all right.
This is the rear of the march from the Department of Labor toward, we're going to Pennsylvania Avenue, so I think we'll be going back to the White House, which is where, well, we didn't start there. The second place we were today.
Me too.
For those of you watching on YouTube, I'm just getting a couple of shots. And if you're watching on Facebook, you kind of see the general direction I'm shooting, but you don't know. Because I'm not able to, I mean, I can zoom, but it's impossible to operate both cameras at once. Okay, can you do that? One thing I try to do is I try to imagine what someone who disagrees with me might say, and give them that as an opportunity for them to kind of go beyond their initial thought and think a little bit. That's the most interesting thing to see on camera, is the person who's actually thinking about what they're saying.
Yeah, I agree. We're shutting down the streets, people. Shutting down.
Wait a second. We're just documenting.
The people who will watch this in the future.
Donald Trump has got to go!
Hey, Medea, you want to talk? Hey. Hold on one second. We got Medea Benjamin from Code Pink.
How are you?
Not surprisingly, you have an eye-catching sign today.
Yeah. What?
I said, not surprisingly, you have an eye-catching sign today.
Yeah.
You came out to support, and what are the biggest issues for you today on International Women's Day?
Well, this march is focusing on women's rights in the workplace, equal pay, to not be harassed, to be treated equally. But it's a women's march for International Women's Day, so I'm here with my Bust Up War sign. Right now, Donald Trump is calling for another $54 billion to add to the already enormous Pentagon budget we have. That's going to eat up over 60% of the discretionary funds. So money for things that we as women want is going to be thrown into the garbage. So we want to bring that message here to the march. It's no more money for war. Let's invest in women, children, our communities, and our globe.
For people who talk about things like foreign aid or what we spend to run the Department of State, how does that compare to this military spending?
Oh, it's nothing. It's 1%. For foreign aid, and the State Department is less than a tenth of what we're paying for the military. So it's ridiculous when people say, oh, but Donald Trump's going to cut foreign aid to the State Department and that's going to cover the increase for the military. Not at all. Those numbers just don't add up. Plus, this is a time when we don't want to go to war with Iran, we don't want to go to war with North Korea, certainly don't want to go to war with Russia or China. We need diplomacy, we need diplomats, we need political solutions, and that's exactly the opposite of what Donald Trump is doing when it comes to where he wants to spend our money.
So you must be doubly concerned about the Department of State, because not only are they talking about cutting back funding, but it seems like the entire purpose of the Department of State is being gobbled up by Donald Trump's son-in-law.
Well, yeah, we hear from friends who work in the Department of State, and they're so demoralized. They feel like they're sidelined, that even the Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, is not in on important meetings around foreign policy issues. So it seems that the guy, Donald Trump, who told us when he was campaigning that we shouldn't be wasting trillions of dollars on these wars, have put the generals in charge and has a very hawkish view of the world, and is antagonizing a lot of our friends from the southern border in Mexico to all the way across to trade wars with China to maybe Sweden.
Okay, lastly, it is International Women's Day. Your Code Pink has always been more focused on peace and trying to prevent unnecessary wars. How do you tie it all together, women's issues and the issue of peace?
Well, we started ourselves as Code Pink when, right after the 9/11 attack, and all we heard was testosterone-filled calls for violence from Osama bin Laden, then from George Bush, then from Saddam Hussein. And we said, we need women's voices out there. We're unfortunately in a very similar time when we just hear these very macho guys, whether it's Donald Trump or Putin or Kim Jong-un in North Korea, and it's a repeat of this posturing, and that takes us down really dangerous paths, leads us into wars. And so we're here to say that women's voices have to be heard, not any women's voices, but women's voices who are saying, let's deal with each other in a way that is not violent, and let's find ways that we spend our money as a nation and as a globe to invest in making sure there's a planet in the next generations, making sure that people aren't starving. There are massive numbers of people now facing famine. So let's invest in human needs in the planet, not in military and war.
Thank you, Medea Benjamin of Code Pink. All right, well, luckily for us, we stopped and they stopped. So let's go check out the rally that they're now having at the, I don't know exactly where we are. We're about halfway between the Capitol and the White House, I can tell you that.
Is her last name Rose? In order to keep a job, or has been forced to compromise her integrity in order to feed her family. I stand with every woman whose rage and oppression has turned to self-hatred and illness and anxiety and depression. I stand with every woman who's had to suffer a boss she knows she is twice as smart as. She knows, like our incredibly pathological predator-in-chief, that she is more capable of, more brilliant. I stand with every woman entitled to education and health care. I stand with every woman who has been grabbed, slapped, pinched, catcalled, raped, and murdered on her job. I stand with my sisters who died in Rana Plaza in Bangladesh and who burned in the Kentex factory in the Philippines, and migrant workers and domestic workers in Hong Kong. I stand with workers throughout this country who are poisoned by environmental toxins, not being allowed to pee at work, or who get pregnant and fired and not get paid overtime. I stand with people over profits. Workers over corporations. Immigrants over tyrants. Black and brown and Asian and Muslim and LGBT women over white nationalists, xenophobics, and haters. I stand in the last desperate capitalism that has reduced women to slaves and objects and has created a world where 1 out of 3 women are raped, abused, or sexually harassed in their homes, the streets, or on their jobs. On this International Women's Day, a day birthed by the garment workers, struggling for better pay and condition and voter rights, I stand in solidarity with every brave and determined woman worker who sacrificed her life for the union! We need unions! Who risk and continues to risk injury, jail, persecution, poverty, and death, standing for the rights of her sisters. I stand against the predator-in-chief and his reign of misogynists, warmongering, immigrant-hating, earth-destroying, rape culture-making, anti-worker, anti-disabled, racist, homophobic, transphobic haters who are trying to push us back. Women are rising in millions across the planet today. Sisters in Asia, Africa, South Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. We women are rising as one body through our Mother Earth's body, who works for us and nurtures us every day as women, just like women workers nurture and lift the world. Our day has come. Our rage is mighty. Our love is fierce. We women have been patient and kind because we are patient and kind. But the risks are too high now. The enslavement of the multitudes, the impoverishment of the majority, the murder of our Mother Earth. We have the numbers. All we need is confidence, the unity, the vision, and wild militant love. We, and I'm telling you this, cannot take this regime lightly. We have to get pissed off, we have to get angry, and we have to take it to the next level. Now I have the pleasure to begin our rising by bringing on stage an amazing woman who has helped in so many ways bring this event with her organization. She is a true leader of women workers, particularly the restaurant workers. She's my sister. She's my ally. Please welcome Saro Jarama.
All right, so we've got sisters here from the restaurant industry who are going to share their stories.
Good afternoon. My name is Tara Vines. I'm with Rock, New York. I stand here today with my sisters in solidarity. I have been in this industry for over 20 years, and I am a victim of sexual harassment. I'm a mother of 2, and I have to depend on tips to support my family. As a server, I experienced sexual harassment from my manager. I was told to shorten my skirt and open my blouse and show cleavage, just to make extra tips to take home to feed my kids. That is unacceptable. So today, we stand in solidarity to bring one fair wage.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tiffany Kirk from Houston, Texas. This is Heather McIntosh from Portland, Maine. Collectively, we have over 30 years of serving and bartending experience, and we're here to stand in solidarity with Rock United. Powerless, defenseless, helpless. How will you react when your daughter comes home in tears because a customer groped her, she refused, and was left with nothing, zero, no tip? At $2.13 an hour in Texas, this is absolutely unacceptable. It's time we change the rhetoric to capable, defiant, and ambitious. Reject the status quo. This is our fight, and it's time to resist. Watch out, Donald, because we're about to grab you by the policy.
At 16, my boss followed me into the walk-in freezer. He wouldn't let me get by him. When I told my manager's daughter, she told me to watch out for him because he liked young girls. At 18, I started bartending. On my first day, the owner called me into his office. He said that he could help me pay for college if I gave him a blowjob. When I refused, I was fired. At 30, I was locked in the bar where I worked by the general manager and assaulted by the vice president of the hotel group. Unknown to me, he was told he could have anything he wanted, including me. In Maine, we just won one fair wage. Woo! The elimination of the lower wage for tipped workers. That means women in Maine will no longer have to endure sexual harassment because now we will no longer have to rely on tips to feed our families. We demand one fair wage everywhere. For our daughters, for our sisters, for our co-workers, and for our mothers.
How's it going, intersectional feminists? Yeah? My name's Juliana Gonzalez. I am with Rock Chicago. I am here to tell you that working for tips normalizes sexual assault and sexual abuse, and I'm sick of it.
Hi, my name is Shanti. I'm from Rock Chicago, and I too have been a victim of sexual harassment at the workplace. Hi, everyone. How y'all feeling? I'm glad to see all the women in the place. My name is Nataki Rose, and I've been a restaurant worker for over 10 years now in the city of Chicago. Okay, Chicago. I have worked for tips over 10 years now. I have experienced sexual harassment, sexual discrimination, feeling gropey, and one time I had even made $150 in tips. And I was sexually assaulted. And I still took the money to help me and my son because I'm a single mom. And so one thing about this, what my son doesn't realize and what a lot of our families doesn't realize, that we do an unseen sacrifice to help them. And we carry them on our backs. And we do this work because we love this work, right? So we must stay united in solidarity. Shout out to all the amazing rock women. Now I have the pleasure of introducing to you three of my favorite women, and I don't call them politicians because they're really activists. Please welcome Congresswoman Jen Schakowsky, Pramila Jayapal, and Rosa DeLaura. My sisters, I'm so proud to be with you. It's over 100 years that we've been acknowledging Women's Equality Day, and 50 years since President Kennedy signed the Equal Pay Act. And look where we're at today. We are still fighting for equal pay, and we will fight for equal pay, and we will fight alongside the tip workers for equal pay. We are not going to quit. We have in the White House someone who admits and brags about sexual harassment. We have to get rid of him, and we have to get rid of harassment. Thank you.
Hello, sisters. My name is Pramila Jayapal, and I join you as a longtime immigrant rights activist, as a worker rights activist. I've been on the streets, I've been arrested for the issues that we are all fighting together for today. And I'll tell you something, women are powerful, that's why they want to shut us down. Make no mistake about it, the earth is breathing, and it's because of the women who power our economy, our households. It's about the women who are going to fight to make sure that there is no violence and that there is peace in this world. And it is the women who are ultimately going to show the courage and the resilience to move forward even in the face of tremendous obstacles. So I can't tell you how happy I am to be the first Indian American woman in the House of Representatives. And always an activist with you. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro from the great state of Connecticut. Proud to stand with all of you today. Women, workers, rising. I stand here today because my mother, who today is 103, started to work when she was 14 years old. I stand here for her and what she did and what she sacrificed all of her life so that I could be a member of the United States House of Representatives. I stand here today for those millions of workers, women workers across this country who couldn't take a day off, who can't take time to be with their families because they might lose their job or they wouldn't get their pay for the day. And that's why what you fight for, what I fight for, is equal pay for equal work. Paid sick days, paid family leave, affordable child care. And if we stand together, brothers and sisters, we will turn it around, we'll make it happen. God bless you for being here today.
Please welcome one of the hardest working, most radical working women, supporter of working women, Randy Weingarten, the president of the American Federation of Teachers.
Are we ready to fight? They can't hear you at the White House. Are we ready to fight? So, my name is Randy Weingarten. I represent 1.6 million teachers, nurses, college professors, scientists, and so many more. And all three of the AFT officers are hard-working women. At a time when our country is being inundated with the fake, we know what's real. Raising our families is real, but so are our challenges like sexual harassment and fighting discrimination. The wage gap is real, wage theft is real, but the fight back is real as well. Resistance and persistence. The power of collective action is real. That is the power that is the core of the labor movement, because the way we gain respect is power at the bargaining table and at the ballot box. Look at how the union advantage really helps. Women in unions earn 31% more per week on average than women who are not in unions. That's enough for a car payment, to save for college, or to buy a home, to help families get ahead more and more. And the union advantage for women of color is even greater. But you know, like I know, the right to join a union is under more assault than ever. Take Wisconsin. After Scott Walker's attacks on unions, we fight for economic opportunity, for great public schools, for great health care, and for democracy and pluralism. These are American values. We will not let injustice, inequality, and discrimination hold us back. But let me ask you this. Why is it that we have to fight so hard for what should be inalienable rights? That's because others, like those occupying the White House today, want to turn back the clock. They want to not only strip our health care, but they want to strip away all of our power because they do not want any checks on their power. But we are the people. We are the check and balance. That is what resistance and persistence is all about. Like Susan B. Anthony, who resisted and persisted, will we resist and persist? Like Rosa Parks, will we resist and persist? Like Frances Perkins, will we resist and persist? Like Malala, will we resist and persist? Like Hillary, will we resist and persist? And will we rise? And will we rise?
In many ways, we come
All right!
from the days
When women's rights
women were
are
hired
under
to
attack.
teach because they could pay them 50% less than men. The whole idea that women should get equal pay for doing equal work, it starts with AFT.
Women don't depend on men for pensions. Women depend on standing up and fighting for what they deserve.
We're the only group in the whole of the system that got any kind of payment because we were the only unionized folks.
Due process does provide teachers with this sense of what I have to say matters, if that's not right, or this student needs these services. We didn't have that. We can be arbitrarily dismissed easily. It's happened in the past, well before we had these rights.
Being engaged with your union, we actually have a voice with curriculum, our educational plans.
Instead of just one speaking their mind, when we all come together, we put our brains together, we put our ideas together.
I am tremendously glad to see all of my union sisters and brothers. It's important that we not allow Trump to claim the working class.
Who deserves a punching fix? Oh, the National Teachers Union.
Well, as a second degree black belt, I would appreciate the opportunity.
Teachers, united, will never be divided.
For the union, for us to continue in the history of educators be the ones taking a stance for marginalized groups, then it's going to be good for all groups.
It's such an empowering feeling to feel like you have people standing behind you.
When women's rights are under attack, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? All right, it's time for some music. We have an amazing singer from New York City, Sofia Yurista. She has stood up with celebrities for women's rights. Let's hear it for Sofia.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I wrote a song because every single day growing up, I saw my mother and my grandmother working really hard. And, you know, the fight starts right here, starts in the heart. And however you choose to express that, I choose to express it through music. So I wrote a song for you today. I'm going to sing it a cappella. I'm going to ask you to sing along with me in just a minute, but bear with me, okay? Let me get it together. Hell had no fury, heaven knows no reach. Shall be laid out here so long, can't feel my bones. And that's what happens when a woman sings the blues. When my world come crashing, I'm not cold as stone. I said I've been laid out here so long, can't feel my bones. And that's what happens when a woman signs the blues. You'll find me begging on my knees in prayer. 'Cause the mean old world gets darker by the day. That's what it sounds like when a woman sings the blues. I say, oh, 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 oh. Yeah, that's what happens when a woman sings the blues. Now I want all the women in this world right now to holler. Holler like this. Ow! Yeah! If you feel it. Let me hear you. Keep it going. Oh, that's what happens when a woman, yeah, said when a woman sings the blues. Oh, you sound so good. They heard you way out there. It's your voice. It's the loudest noise. That's right. All right, now it's time for me to introduce Brittany Butler. Ladies and gentlemen, Brittany Butler is a worker, leader with Good Jobs Defenders, a new coalition fighting to create a good jobs nation. Brittany works at Union Station in Washington, D.C., federal government building. She has been organizing with Good Jobs Nation since 2013. Even though she holds 2 master's degrees, she's had a hard time finding fair employment. She currently works 2 jobs to make ends meet, and her student debt is a constant source of anxiety. Hear, hear. Please welcome former Representative Captor Brittany Butler with Good Jobs Defenders.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming out, and I'm so happy to be standing in solidarity with you all today. Again, my name is Brittany Butler, and I work right down the road at Union Station. Over the past 3 years, federal contract workers like myself have been going on strike more than 20 times to make our voices heard. We've been on strike more than 20 times to let Congress know that we are fighting for not only $15 an hour, but for a union. We need good jobs, and we need it to be a good jobs nation, and we are not going to stop fighting until we get it. You think that workers in federal buildings earn a living wage? We don't. We don't get benefits, we don't get health care, we don't get paid leave, sick leave, or retirement savings. In fact, the federal government is the leading low-wage job creator, more than McDonald's and more than Walmart. Over 2 million workers who work on behalf of the federal government through contracts, leases, loans, and other contracts make less than $12 an hour. That's not a living wage. The federal government also employs a lot of women and people of color. In fact, 70% of these workers are women and 45% of these workers are people of color. If women like me could earn a living wage and had a right to join a union, I too could pursue the American dream. Congress has refused to raise our wages. In over 6 years, they have tried to roll back the executive orders that Obama passed so that we will not get grabbed on the job, sexually harassed on the job, and treated unfairly. Do you think this is right? Do you think you deserve to go to work and do the same work as men and get less pay? Here's the rub. The same interests that are suppressing our votes are the same interests that are suppressing our pay. Again, I stand with here here with you today in solidarity because I want you to know we need executive action now. President Obama took executive action to raise our wages, to prevent wage theft, and to make sure we don't have other labor law violations being occurred against us. But it's not enough. We need to continue to fight and stand together. These were great steps in the right direction, but we need to continue the labor legacy that Obama started. Earlier this week, the U.S. Senate voted to remove wage theft protections. Is that right? But there's hope. One thing I know for sure is that we keep fighting, we will win. When we fight, we win. All of us need to continue to stand together and resist the powers that be. Are you with me? Are you with me? Thank you, and we will continue to stand in solidarity. Carrie Gray, intersectionality and youth program artist. I'm going to bring her onto the stage now. Her work, she designs programs and does activities that empower young people. On a personal level, Carrie identifies as a Black woman with disabilities. She believes in the concept of intersectionality because she has lived the experiences of intersectional barriers. Carrie also works with various organizations such as the U.S. Business Leadership Network. Here we are. Carrie, come to the stage.
How y'all doing today, my people? Y'all doing all right? I'm excited to be here and speak with y'all today about a narrative about women who have been ever questioned, right, for being what might be considered different in some type of way. So, I'm a Black woman. I'm proud of that. I love it. I'm also a woman with disabilities, and I'm proud of that, and I love it. I'm unapologetic about that. Unfortunately, not everyone loves that as much as I love myself. And so I think that's why we're here today, to talk about our narratives and our stories and get an understanding of how sometimes policies don't translate to the real narratives of what we live and exist today. So how can we transition that narrative and make sure that people who are supposed to represent us are actually representing us, right? Right? So part of my story is that I had cancer at the age of 8 years old, and from that I had to get an amputation on my right leg, and I have a prosthetic limb. I also have hearing loss due to the chemotherapy that I took as a child. And so at a young age, I had to start to navigate and understand. I love my Blackness. I love what it means to have a fro and rock it. You know what I'm saying? I see you. I love the culture. I love the slang. I love the way in which we talk and we speak. And there's nothing like having a Black woman's attitude come at you. Right? So I love the way in which that translates, and I bring that as a strength in my organizations because I'm able to talk and understand who we're supposed to be representing. That's a strength that oftentimes gets confused with why you talk like that. Because we want to, because that's who I am. You know what I'm saying? It gets translated into, why are you so aggressive about the way in which you go about things? And I can be aggressive if I want to be aggressive. I can talk the way in which I want to talk. That's the point of today. It's about my culture. It's about who I am, and I can represent that unapologetically. You know what I'm saying? So rock with me on that. But it's interesting because it almost conflicts with my disability narrative as I've grown up. So I've grown up being a person with a disability, and I wasn't always proud of that, right? So navigating throughout society, a lot of people would try to tell me, you know, ain't nothing wrong with you, you good, right? So if you want to run around the park, but I can't. So it's trying to be in a situation where I can tell my story and control my own cans and cannots, and not someone else do that for me, right? And that's what I want to speak into people's narratives today, of how can you speak to the people who are supposed to represent you and represent yourself and not allow them to try to translate and say, this is what your story is, right? So I grew up in a situation where I would wear long pants every single day to cover up and hide my disability. I wouldn't talk about my hearing loss. I wouldn't talk about the accommodation process because I didn't want to be that person who stood out. But that only hurt me more because then when I was in a work and employment situations, it turned into, well, you're not shining, you're not doing the best that you can. And it was because I was afraid to speak up. So I want to be in a position today where I always speak up, right? I want to be in a position where every single woman in film here has a voice that they know matters, and that you're no longer going to tolerate when a person says, just let that go. Be quiet about that. We've done that too often, too many times. And it's time to make sure that we are always heard, we're always represented, and that it's intersectionally, right? So earlier I saw someone with the intersectional feminist sign. Yes, representing that. And that's really important because we don't want to be in a situation that happened a long time ago when we were trying to decide, should the black vote win or should the women's vote win, right? And because of that, it took us an additional 50 years before women had the right to vote. So me being a black disabled woman, I was caught in the crossfire. I would have been caught in the crossfire of situations like that. So it's important not only do we represent what it means to be feminists, womanists, and that we represent our narratives, but how can we do that intersectionally and in solidarity with one another, right? So I never want to see a situation where we're saying just in general women, because then what about, you know, the women who are immigrants? What about the women who have disabled bodies? What about all the different ways in which we exist? It's always important to know that we have to come together in a way with solidarity and representing each other. And that's why I'm happy to see everyone here today. So I appreciate your time. I want to just say disability solidarity to each of you. Let's uplift and love one another because it's our duty to win. Thank you. So I want to introduce our next speaker, Sophia. Ms. Sophia is a working woman who has been the heart blood of every movement to improve the lives of working people in America. Yes, Labor Women Rising. To improve the lives of working people in America, from the fight to end slavery, to the fight for an 8-hour day and decent working conditions, to the fight for voting and the end to police brutality. And most of them were immigrants and women of color. Yes. Here's Labor Women Rising, lifting up unsung women for the labor movement.
How's everyone doing?
Women are the heart blood of every movement demanding justice and equality that this country has seen.
I was born in New York in 1797 and walked out of slavery in 1826. You know me because I was an abolitionist and a suffragist for decades before the Civil War. Some men said women needed help to get into carriages and to know how to vote, but I have plowed and planted and could work as hard as any man. And ain't I a woman? I recruited black troops for the Union and pushed for former slaves to get the land they were promised, but they didn't. And only black men got the vote. Black women had to wait another 50 years. My name is Sojourner Truth. Say her name. Sojourner Truth.
My family was driven out of Ireland by the Great Famine. By the time I was 35, I'd buried my husband and 4 children from yellow fever and saw everything else burn in the Chicago fire. And then I found my home in the labor movement. a soft place to stand when my feet were sore. I organized the Knights of Labor, the Wobblies, and the mine workers, telling them to pray for the dead, but fight like hell for the living. I must have been good at what I did, since the bosses called me the most dangerous woman in the country. But the miners just called me Mother Jones.
I was forced to flee from Texas to the north because people couldn't accept my interracial marriage. My parents were Native American and Mexican. My husband, white. I helped find the IWPA in 1883. My husband and I campaigned for the 8-hour workday and were part of the great May Day protest of 1886. The state of Illinois later claimed my husband had conspired to place the bomb at the Haymarket riot, against all evidence. He was tried in a kangaroo court and hung. My name is Lucy Gonzalez Parsons.
Say her name! Lucy Gonzalez Parsons.
I was raised in Kansas and stood with the People's Party in 1890 for farm workers and for working people, because we saw that Wall Street owned the country and that it's no longer a country of the people, by the people, and for the people. It's now a country and a government run of Wall Street, by Wall Street, and for Wall Street. And I hold that if one man does not have enough money and cannot eat 3 times a day, and another man has $25 million, that last man has something that belongs to the first. My name is Mary Lease. Say her name, Mary Lease.
My family fled a pogrom in Ukraine to America when I was a teenager. I started working in the garment industry in New York almost immediately. Conditions were abysmal, and I soon joined the International Ladies Garment Workers Union. The male leaders of the union told us to be patient, told us to wait for instruction from above. But on this day, in 1909, I led the uprising of 20,000. Us garment workers went on strike for months, but we got contracts in almost every factory, except the Triangle Shirtwaist factory. A year later, 150 girls died in the fire, including my cousin. Blacklisted by the industry and the male unionists, I spent the rest of my life fighting for the women's vote, tenants' rights, consumer protections, and civil rights. My last fight was to organize the workers in my retirement home. My name is Clara Lemlich. Say her name, Clara Lemlich.
Hola, mi gente. I came to New York from Guatemala in search of a better life. My first job was at Selgren's cafeteria. I thought I had it made. But the hours were so long, and the men treated us like trash, always trying to touch us, trying to take us home. So we went on strike. And you know what? We won. And I had found my calling. I was an organizer. In fact, I was an organizer for 20 years, until they forced me out of the country under threat of deportation. My name is Luisa Morena. Say her name. Luisa Morena.
My union was the only thing that offered me and my children a better life in North Carolina in the 1920s as a single mother who had already lost 4 children. I spoke for my union. I wrote and sang for my union, and I organized for it. The bosses really hated that we were organizing white and black mill workers together against long hours, low pay, and the stretch. During the 1929 Low-Ray Mill strike, we were ambushed by armed vigilantes, and I was shot dead. I was 29 and pregnant with my 10th child. I left behind 5 orphans, and despite more than 50 witnesses, my murderers went free. My name is Ella Mae Wiggins.
Say her name, Ella Mae Wiggins.
I was born the youngest of 20 children in Montgomery County, Mississippi. My parents were sharecroppers on a plantation. In 1961, I went to the hospital to have a tumor removed. Without my consent, the white doctor gave me a hysterectomy. They were trying to reduce the number of poor black people in Mississippi. In 1961, I was a voting rights activist, and I helped organize the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which, among other things, worked to register as many black people in Mississippi as possible in 1964 during Freedom Summer. I was the vice chair for the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, which challenged the all-white, anti-civil rights delegation to the Democratic National Convention in 1964. I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. My name is Fannie Lou Hamer. Fannie Lou Hamer.
I worked in the field since I was 5 years old. Cesar and Dolores recruited me to be the first woman organizer for the United Farm Workers. It was hard being a woman organizer. Many of my people were raised under old customs, where the husband ruled and the woman obeyed. My neighbors were for the union, but they didn't want to take orders from me. But I kept organizing. I led strikes, and I even met the Pope. My name is Jessie de la Cruz.